That is happy days are here again. Are you tired of winning yet? You know, Trump makes these outlandish statements. It said that I think it was in 2016 that Americans were going to get so tired of winning they wouldn't know what to do. Those statements seemed outlandish at the time, but now they're beginning to play out in real time, appearing to be very true. Where am I coming from? Well, for starters, this is the truth. I'm John Gordon. So yesterday, John Cornyn, considered by most MAGA Republicans anyway, to be the consummate rhino. Now, I actually believe in statesmanship. I believe in discourse. I believe in compromise where appropriate. But John Cornyn went too far. He has obstructed the Save America Act, which, as you know, is a law that John Thune has blocked from coming to the Senate floor. The House has already passed it. And all it does is prevent illegal aliens from voting and requiring legal citizens of this country to present a voter ID. So it is my considered opinion that people that don't want a voter ID are people who fully intend to cheat. There is no other intellectual argument against it. Now, these people will tell you, oh, it's voter suppression because some Democrats can't get a government ID, or it would impose too big of a burden on them. Well, the reality is, folks, that 97% of Americans have a government-issued photo ID. 97%. And it is my belief that the other 3% are not high-propensity voters, and they are probably living in homeless shelters, mental institutions, or are physically incapable of getting to the polls. So, the SAVE Act is needed and necessary. And I think it's going to be demonstrated when the FBI finishes its examination of the Georgia and Arizona absentee ballots, which are now in their possession and being studied in Quantico. But besides John Cornyn, folks, this is unprecedented. It is unbelievable to me that 118 of Trump-backed primary candidates, Republican candidates, got elected. All 118 out of 118. Now, the breakdown is 9 people who ran for the United States Senate in the Republican primaries, got it across the line, and 10 people who ran for Republican nominee for governor. I'm sorry, I got that backwards. It's 9 for the U.S. Senate and 9 for governorships. Nope, I'm going to correct it one more time. It's 9 out of 9 for the U.S. Senate and 8 out of 8 for Republican nominee for governor. I automatically just went to 9 because Burt Jones is running against Rick Jackson in Georgia in a runoff. Now, Burt Jones beat Jackson by over 6%, which is unheard of. He trounced him. I'm not a Rick Jackson fan. He is the consummate rhino, if you ask me, having given money to Nikki Haley and to some Democrats in Georgia, including Stacey Abrams. That dog don't hunt, as we're fond of saying in Georgia. For the United States House of Representatives, listen to these numbers. 101 out of 101. A sweep. I mean, Trump is batting 1,000. And we need it. We need it. We need it to get rid of the likes of John Cornyn. And I'm sorry, Marjorie Taylor Greene was about to get primaried, so she threw in her cards early and just said, no, you're going to primary me, I quit. Well, isn't that nice? You're a quitter. Now, I know Marjorie Taylor Greene. I've known her since 2018, I believe, when she and I both were sitting at Mar-a-Lago for 4 or 5 hours at the same table, dialing for dollars for Donald Trump. She had not yet gotten elected to Congress, but she was at the very beginnings of her campaign. She served for 6 years, from 2020 to 2026. She entered Congress, I think, with about don't hold me to this. I think it's about 300,000 in net worth. But today, she has 26 million. Sounds kind of Elon Omar-ish to me. So I'm not a fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is a egomaniac. She's a nasty person, frankly. I don't have any love lost for her, but I will tell you this. I respected her talk track. I respected her ideology. I respected her backbone. But I did not respect her vitriol. And I know her personally. I just don't think she's a nice person. So do we allow people who are not nice people to serve in Congress or in elective office? Yeah, probably so. I mean, you'd have to put Donald Trump in that category, wouldn't you? I mean, Trump can be nice. I've never seen Marjorie Taylor Greene be nice, but I've seen Trump be nice a lot. And I know he loves his family. I know he loves his wife. If you're on his good list, you're in. If you're not, you're not. So there's a lot about Trump that I could talk negatively about. I don't like some of the verbiage that he uses. I mean, he had already beat Massie, and then he just went on with a really mean tweet, calling him a loser and disloyal and all this stuff. Now, look, this is just me, okay? And you're free to disagree. If you disagree, let me know. Write to me, johngordontruth@gmail.com. I'll read it, and I will more than likely answer you. I will make every good faith effort to answer all the email that I get. But in Massie's case, I have a problem with Trump's primarying him. Look, we marvel at how the Democrats stick together, how they are able to get everybody whipped into line. And we also have been critical of that. Now Republicans, Trump, are doing the same thing. Well, if you like the policy, you're cheering him on. But look, we cannot criticize the Democrats for doing what they do, and then we do the same thing and think it's okay. That is called hypocrisy. And I'm sorry, I'm just not down with that. Now, in Massie's case, here's where I'm coming from. Massie opposed Trump. They've had their issues for some time, but Massie really got under Trump's skin and opposed him on the big, beautiful bill. That in Trump 2.0, that was the first real split. Now, I was with Massie and Rand Paul. $39 trillion a year in debt. It will take years to pay it down. $1 trillion a year in interest payments alone. Now, this is the only policy that I've really disagreed with President Trump on. He is walking a high wire act. He believes that he can cure the national debt by expanding the GDP to a point where the national debt will be bearable. I think it's dangerous. I would say reckless, but I have so much confidence in Trump and I believe in him so much. I found that in the past, over the last, how many years has it been? 4, 6, 10, I'm going to call it 12 years that I have watched the political Donald Trump. I've watched the entrepreneur Donald Trump my entire adult life, and I really admire him. Now, there are things I don't admire, but I'm talking about his ideology, his philosophies, and his implementation. You got to give him A+ across the board. But speaking ill of the actor who died at the hand of his son, speaking ill of the former presidential candidate for the Republican Party from Arizona, after he died, I'm sorry, it's just not presidential. So those are the things that I quibble with. But on policy, we're in violent agreement on everything except his handling of the debt. And what that means is his propensity for spending. This federal government is out of control, in my humble opinion. If there was one thing that Donald Trump needs to do to save our country right now, I would say it is get our federal spending under control. That's where he and Massie had their first big fallout in Trump 2.0. So I don't fault Massie for that. We have to allow for debate. We have to allow within our own party disagreement. Now, at the end of the day, should he have voted for the big, beautiful bill? I would say yes, if he could have gotten a commitment from Trump that he would come back on the next budget and reduce spending. Rand Paul says really all you have to do is reduce entitlements 1% per year for the next 10 years, or I'm sorry, not entitlements, reduce all federal spending, which would include entitlements, which is where the rub is. You know, people don't want to give up their Social Security, their Medicare. Surely they don't want to give up their Medicaid. They don't want to give up their welfare. They want to give up their welfare stamps. But I'm saying, and myself included, we all need to do our part. A penny a year for 10 years is a manageable, bearable compromise. That's what I think we should do. One penny of every dollar. That's 1%. Over 10 years, it's 10%. You do that for 10 years, the federal debt goes away. It is no longer an existential threat to our country. But right now it is. And I think we are at a close to a breaking point if we're not careful. Now, nobody cares right now. People have stopped worrying about it. Why? Because the economy is doing so well. And it is playing into Donald Trump's plan. And the fact is that if we cut federal spending, I mean, what do we do when we get in crisis? What's the first thing we do? The Federal Reserve starts printing money, baby. We start pumping the economy up. We start propping it up. So if you cut federal spending, it will have a deflationary effect. You could argue, well, what's the matter with that? Well, what's the matter with it is that it may, in fact, slow the economy. And that's what Trump is worried about. So I totally understand where he's coming from. He also wants Kevin Warsh, the new chairman of the Federal Reserve, to lower interest rates. I'm sorry. I want lower interest rates. We all want lower interest rates. But this thing called personal responsibility, delayed gratification, sacrificing for our country needs to be on everyone's shoulders. So if we've got to pay higher interest rates, and right now I owe more money than I've ever owed in my entire life. So it is against my own interest to say, let's lower interest rates. But it is in my long-term best interest because it will tame inflation. And we just went through the longest period of inflation that I can remember since Gerald Ford coined the phrase "win." which stood for whip inflation now, they couldn't get it under control. It was out of control. Interest rates. You people that are younger, you're not going to believe this, but interest rates under Jimmy Carter, who replaced Gerald Ford as president, were 21%. The prime rate in this country reached 21 and 22%. Can you imagine that? And we're griping today over 5% money? I mean, come on, get with it. But we all want no interest rates like we had for a good number of years. So I'm just saying, I don't know what the right answer is. I trust Trump. I'm with Trump. I also think that there should be room for debate. There should be room for differences within our party. I don't think we can criticize Democrats and then do exactly what they've done that we're criticizing them for. Another big thing that got in Trump's way with Massie was Massie teamed up with Marjorie Taylor Greene and some Democrats to release millions of pages of the Epstein files. Well, guess what? It passed the House of Representatives almost unanimously. So it wasn't just Massie that was the problem. It was the entire Congress. And it was the right thing to do to have released the files. We've gotten 3 million of the 6 million. We still don't have 3 million. And that's unlawful. We should get the other 3 million. And I don't really like that. So if you want another policy difference between me and Trump, there it is. Foreign policy, he publicly criticized Trump for the military action in Iran. I understand a lot of people are concerned about getting into a war. So am I. But look, there are 3 reasons that we should have gone into Iran. Number one, in 1978, they took over students in Iran with the encouragement of its government, took over the American embassy in Tehran. They hijacked, they kidnapped 66 American hostages and held them for 444 days. Ronald Reagan should have gone in there and bombed the hell out of them the first week he was president, but he couldn't do it. You know why? Because it was that crisis that handed him the presidency against Jimmy Carter, who was the incumbent. So politically, his hands were somewhat tied. Well, I don't think that would have deterred Trump, and it wouldn't have deterred me if I had been president. Not that I would have been or could have been, maybe should have been. If you're watching The Truth, you probably agree with me. But we needed to go and neuter Iran. Number two, if you believe what they tell us, and I've got some reservations about it, they've been telling us, Netanyahu said 10 years ago that Iran was just a matter of days or weeks away from enriching uranium to build a nuclear weapon. 10 years ago. And now it's the same story. We're being fed again. Oh, they were within weeks. They had gotten uranium enriched to 60%, and to go from 60 to 90 can be done in a month. They were just a month away from enriching uranium. Well, you've got to believe somebody. Now, the guy that resigned from the National Security Agency, what was his name? It escapes me. I'm having a tough time remembering people's names today. Anyway, I'm old, okay? I make no apology for it. It's just something that is you age, but I've never been really good at remembering names. But you remember the name, Anthony, of the guy who resigned saying that he saw no imminent threat from Iran developing a nuclear weapon? So there were people that questioned it. Yeah, what was his name? Joseph Kent. Thank you. That's producer Anthony that breathed a breath of fresh air into the conversation. So That did give me pause. Tucker Carlson is vehemently opposed to the war in Vietnam, which has caused a real rift between he and Trump, who were once very good friends. And I'll tell you something else. Charlie Kirk opposed the United States intervention and getting into a war with Iran. So it's not just Massie who did that, but I'm just saying that debate is healthy. It's part of the American way. It's part of a real republic. And he had been in Congress for quite some time. I think I come down, pardon my cough, it's allergy season. I can't, I'd like to suppress it and hide it, but I can't. But Massie, Cornyn, it's a no-brainer for me. Out of here. Just like Raffensperger and Carr, out of here. Your day in the spotlight is over. Your time as an elected official, you're over, done, kaput. I don't think any of those people will ever serve in government again in elective office. But Thomas Massie, I give, and some people aren't going to like it. I'm sorry, I don't care. Well, I do care. I mean, I'd like you to like it, but it's not going to affect what I intellectually and truthfully believe. I think I would have agreed to have gone to neutral corners with Massie, maybe try to find some way to get to a common ground. I think the budget would have been in place to do that. It doesn't matter. The train has left the station. He's no longer going to be in the United States Congress come November, yeah, when his opponent is elected, or at least in 2027 when that Congress will be seated. But we spent too much time digressing on that. The real issue is 118 Trump-endorsed candidates have won. We are paving the way for Trump to get his agenda passed without the obstructionist. And look, I was on a podcast earlier today, and I went through a litany of the things that Democrats have done to this country, dating back to the 1860s when they opposed the abolition of slavery. It was Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president of the United States, that got rid of slavery. It was the Democrats and the Dixiecrats who opposed abolition of slavery. It was the Republicans who freed the slaves. You can go all the way forward to the 1940s, and our socialist movement in this country really began with Franklin Delano Roosevelt when he passed his New Deal. And then Lyndon Johnson came along after having assassinated the President of the United States. I truly believe that he orchestrated it. Allen Dulles carried it out, and J. Edgar Hoover covered it up. But nevertheless, he passed the Lyndon Johnson Great Society, which included the establishment of Medicare and Medicaid and food stamps and a lot of free stuff, including education. Now, in 1964, I've got to say, I think it was warranted. We denied and discriminated against blacks in this country for 200 years. You're not going to flip a switch and change that overnight. So with the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, we gave blacks a helping hand, which I think was totally appropriate in that time. But today, it is no longer necessary or needed. Now, it may be wanted, but it's not necessary. There are a legion of black people in this country today, like Dr. Ben Carson, like Andrew Young. You can go down the list. Many, many black people in this country today are entrepreneurs, doctors, dentists, lawyers, successful business people, captains of industry. So I don't think that, there's a movement within the black community by some, pay us reparations. I think we've already paid. I think we've already paid for the last 60 years. And I don't begrudge it one bit. I think we owed those opportunities to blacks who we denied a fair chance. But that was then, and this is now. They've had 60 years of support, and I think the tides are now turning. Let me just finish here for a second. Dems opened our southern border. It wasn't the Republicans. Dems perpetuated the Russia hoax, which led to a fake impeachment of President Trump in his first term and a $40 million Mueller investigation. And it all really started with Adam Schiff going on national television and saying that he had incontrovertible proof of Russia collusion in the 2017 election. And it was a damnable lie. And Tulsi Gabbard just released The Smoking Gun, wherein she declassified a document where the intelligence community rendered the opinion that they could find no credible evidence of Russian collusion in the 2016 election. Period. Paragraph. Adam Schiff should be prosecuted. He should be prosecuted for lying to the American people and dragging this country through 4 years of hell and derailing our duly elected president's agenda from 2017 to 2020. He should be held accountable, in my opinion. Dems perpetuated that Russia collusion, just like they stole the 2020 election, just like they convened the illegitimate J6 Commission to cover up their deeds. And on November the 4th, 2024, it was the Americans who stood, all 77 million of them, and said, no more. We're electing Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Do you know what percentage of the electorate of blacks that Trump got? 20%. 13% had been the high water mark prior to 2024. Do you know how many Hispanics voted for Trump? 47 or 48%, depending on which poll you follow. So it was a mandate. It was historic. And I am very proud of the job that President Trump has done and continues to do. And the sands of change are shifting under our feet as we speak. The Supreme Court of the United States in Louisiana versus Calais outlawed gerrymandering based on race. The Supreme Court overruled Roe v. Wade. 62 million fetuses aborted in this country since Roe v. Wade. I don't want one drop of that on my hands, let alone my conscience. I applaud the Supreme Court for their courageous decision. The best news of all that are that millennials are coming back to church. They are coming in large numbers, and Charlie Kirk can take a lot of credit for having led them back to God and Jesus and Christianity or Judaism. And frankly, I celebrate people worshiping any religion that they choose. And there have been studies between the Bible and the Quran. They actually are very similar books. And nowhere in the Quran, I am told by scholars, does it say death to infidels, meaning that because you are a Christian, they are not wanting to kill you because they too believe that Christ visited the earth. So that is a subject that I'm not well versed on, but that's the information that I have received to date. And I am continuing to get better educated and informed on the differences of these religions. And we intend to put up a podcast on that very topic with legitimate academic experts to lead us through that discussion. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, happy days are here again. America the Beautiful. We were at a tipping point. Had Kamala Harris become president of the United States, I truly believe we would have lost this country. Trump is rebuilding the military. He is restoring peace around the world. Yes, Iran is an exception. I hope that it will be short-lived. I'm disappointed that it's gone on as long as it has, but I do have faith in Trump and our leaders to get to a resolution soon. And then if we can get the war ended in the Ukraine, this landscape around the world is going to look pretty darn good. And that is the truth. And I'm John Gordon. Our studio sponsor is Bone Frog Coffee, and it's veteran-owned, founded by retired Navy SEAL Tim Cruikshank as a tribute to his fallen teammates in the Naval Special Warfare community. We're going to get Tim to come on The Truth in the very near future and talk to us about his time in the Navy Special Forces and Bone Frog Coffee, where each bag tells a story and gives a peek behind the curtain of special ops. If you don't already know, the bone frog is a sacred symbol in the SEAL teams that represents those who give their lives in combat and is a reminder of the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom and the American way of life. Every bag, premium, small batch roasted from top shelf Arabica beans, smooth, low acid, no robusta junk. Think bold blends like Frogman Dark Roast or the classic Bone Frog Medium. Tastes like freedom in a cup. And here's the real deal. A chunk of every sale goes right to helping SEAL vets and Gold Star families, aiming for $500,000 donated. Coffee with a cause? You bet. That's not a slogan. It's brotherhood brewed daily. Head to bonefrogcoffee.com, snag some K-Cups, whole bean, or merchandise. Use the promo code TRUTH. Start your day just like I do. Fuel up, stay sharp, and remember, service before self. Support our veterans and thank Bone Frog for sponsoring our studio. Check them out now at bonefrogcoffee.com. Randy Perham is a political activist in no less than Texas. He is also a mover and shaker. He had 22 years in the military. He went to Iraq and Kuwait. So he's a patriot. And this is his second time with us on The Truth. Randy, welcome back.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me back. I truly appreciate it. How's everything going?
Good. You know, I think that how Texas goes, so goes the rest of the nation, maybe. You've got the second or third largest congressional delegation.
I believe
is it California, Texas, New York? Or
correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Second largest. Yep.
That's pretty significant. And excuse me, John Cornyn suffered a loss this week in Texas. Did that surprise you?
It did, but not really. You know, it was kind of like a fence for me. But we kind of knew that he was going to end up losing, because it was a very big grassroots push for Attorney General Ken Paxton to beat and push out John Cornyn. So the President Trump's endorsement just solidified that, and here we are. So it was time, I guess you could say, for a lot of these folks that's been in office for a long time.
I mean, all he had to do was help push the SAVE Act, and he would still be a United States Senator. I mean, how simple can it be?
Yeah.
Why would he risk his political career on one very good, necessary, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, necessary piece of legislation? I don't understand why these Republican senators, I don't understand why any senator would not be in favor of the SAVE Act. As far as I'm concerned, it's a red line. And if someone is not in favor of the SAVE Act, they are in favor of cheating. Now they want to debate why cheating is okay. They want to try and convince us that it's okay to cheat.
Exactly, and I think the problem was that not only are they may be in favor of cheating, but they're also looking at, hey, we have a body of people that will vote for us and we can stay in power. There could be some of that. But as far as my understanding of what was going on the internals of the SAVE Act being passed was that they didn't have the votes to pass it because you have Republicans that were not in favor of passing or even helping the Trump agenda, and we're seeing the results of these primaries and getting them pushed out so it can eventually pass, hopefully in the next session.
Do you know who the senators are that oppose it?
Definitely, what's her name, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, and then you have Thune, Leader Thune, who's on the fence with it. He's saying that he wants to pass it, but there's those two stalwarts in the Senate there that are always against the Trump agenda. So you got Collins and Murkowski that are pushing back.
So if we had Collins, Murkowski, Thune, and Cornyn, that still only gets us to 55. And you're saying that we've got to get to 60, I guess, to
60.
overcome the filibuster?
Correct. Yep.
That leaves 5 more people. Would John Fetterman consider voting for it?
I don't know. I don't know. He seemed like he probably would be in favor of it, given that he's been, slowly coming in alignment with the Republicans on a lot of things in the Senate. But that one would probably be his red line. Like, I'm not going to go that far with you guys. So it's hard to say.
I think it is such a sad commentary
Yeah.
that enough of Americans think that it's okay to cheat in elections that we're not going to pass a measure that prevents people from cheating.
I agree. And it is time for Americans to stand up to their legislators and say, hey, this is the agenda that we voted for. This is the agenda that we want. This is the agenda that you need to help push, or we're going to push you out the door. We are at that point. We are at that brink. And, I think it sends a warning signal to the U.S. Congress that the American people is no longer playing with them. And we're seeing results of it across the country right now. So kudos to the American people for finally standing up.
You said a block of voters would oppose the FAIR Act or the SAVE Act. Who? Which voters?
I would say it's those that are part of the chain migration population, and that spans across all ethnicities. But those that are like first, maybe even second generation voters, they're like we should allow our family members who may not be residents yet to be able to vote. There's a push like that in California. And so it's kind of crazy that we allow non-American citizens to vote in local elections, and then they say they're not voting in our federal elections. It's like, are we really, monitoring that? So it's an issue. It is an issue.
Well, I think it's so unpatriotic and so afoul of the Constitution and everything this country stands for, and the fundamental foundation of a republic has got to be the franchise, and to destroy that is apocryphal. And I cannot, they say put yourself in the other man's shoes. I cannot put myself in those shoes under any circumstances, and it wouldn't work anywhere else in the entire universe.
You're correct.
You think you're going to go into Russia and vote?
No.
You think you're going to go to communist China and vote? You think
Not
you're
at
going to
all.
go
Not
to
at
any
all.
European EU country and vote without being a citizen? It's
Nope.
just ludicrous.
It is.
And I think we need to identify those people, and we need to persecute them and run their ass out of the United States Congress. And I think it is happening, Randy.
Yeah.
I mean, Massie is gone, and I'm not sure I'm in favor of that one. I mean, I think we've got to allow discourse and differences of opinion
Sure.
within our party when the value is correct. Opposing the SAVE Act is just wrong on any level, in my view.
Yeah, I agree.
But I also think that voting to expand our government's expenditures is equally wrong, because we are at a tipping point with $39 trillion in debt and $1 trillion a year in interest payments. And where are the adults it just looks like these weak-kneed people are unwilling to stand up to the special interest and say no. And Trump, who I absolutely consider myself a loyalist, that does not mean that I don't call balls and strikes, but he has not shown the resolve to get the federal government spending under control like he promised us he would.
True.
Because he wants to expand the defense budget from which is now right at $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion. Have I got that right?
Yeah, something like you're correct, John. You're correct. There's like 1.5 trillion, and to me that's a little bit too much because being
It's
that
a lot too much.
a
Now,
lot
look,
too much. Yeah.
Every time I criticize Trump, I find out 6 months later I was wrong. And maybe he knows something that we don't know. And I think if there is something that he knows that we don't know, it would probably relate to China because they are rapidly expanding their defense. They've got the most powerful navy in the world right now, and we're now catching up with them. Even though I can't remember the exact number, but I think when we were spending 750 million, they were spending 350 million. So they have been way behind us in spending. But then again, they probably don't have the graft, corruption, fraud, waste, and abuse in their defense spending that we do.
Correct.
So I don't know how much money is represented by that, but I really think this country is in bad shape in its values and our resolve. And it just seemed to me that things went a lot better when everybody went to church on Sunday and was watching Ed Sullivan and the wonderful world of Disney. I yearn for those days. I guess they're gone.
Simpler times. Yes.
I think that the greatest sign of optimism that I've seen is that millennials are flocking in droves back to the church.
I agree. I agree. But the other thing behind that is what are they getting out of these churches that they're going to? Are they actually getting, world biblical principles, or are they being indoctrinated in a different way and they're just finding I guess you could say, a different echo chamber outside the college campuses? That's my concern. And, I'm here in Austin, Texas, and the churches here, they got LGBTQ flags flying, so it's kind of like, yeah, you got a lot of kids going to church, but what are they getting out of these services? So I agree. It's good that people are going back to church, but I also have the same concern as to what they're getting out of church. But I want to go back to your previous point, John, about China. China actually has also a robust space program.
Yes.
And they have been, on the mark with their space program, and the United States is still somewhat behind with, our space program. So the 1.5 trillion increase in spending, I can see the necessity for it in a small frame of things. But being that I had 22 years in the military, I seen firsthand the waste and the spending in the military with ball bearings costing $500 when you can go down to AutoZone and get it for $5. So it's things like that concerns me with our spending, is that we have these contractors and these logistics suppliers. They overly charge for things that you could get easily from the market at a much reduced rate. So if the Secretary of Defense and the Department of Defense actually honed in on these things, I think that our defense spending could be drastically reduced and will be on par with other countries in terms of defense spending.
Well, the space program, I think, is the future.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely.
And it really transcends defense. Defense is a big part of it, obviously. But to get a jump on everybody else, Elon Musk is talking about putting data centers in space and transmitting the information back and forth between Earth. And if you really get into the weeds on that, it makes so much sense.
Yes.
The space requirements are so much smaller in terms of the footprint, and the energy requirement, it's free. It comes from the sun.
Yep.
And I've just learned recently, I've sort of started focusing a little more on the solar system and outer space. Do you know what percent of the solar system the sun comprises
Ooh, good question.
in terms of mass?
Mass, I would say it's probably like 60% maybe.
Would you believe 98%
Okay.
plus?
Wow.
And do you know what percent the Earth makes up of the solar system?
No, I don't.
It doesn't even register.
Oh, okay. There we
We
go.
are a speck
Spec of it.
of
Yeah.
dirt. So if, but we're a very valuable real estate
Mm-hmm.
because we've got oxygen and water and
Right. Right.
plants and animals and human intelligent life.
Mm-hmm.
But so we don't believe that exists anywhere else in the solar system. We're starting to hear dribbles and drabs that there are real aliens that have visited Earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about them apples?
You know, I'm a fan of ancient aliens. I would come out and say right out the gate, I'm a fan of ancient aliens. So I do believe that there may be some extraterrestrial life out there. Now, whether or not it's in a form of what we see in our sci-fi movies, that I'm kind of skeptical about. But I do believe that there may be some intelligent life out there to some degree. Now, whether or not they have the ability to create spacecraft and it's a whole civilization, that I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. But
Randy, there are too many credible people
yeah,
and witnesses who have seen
I agree.
craft in the water, in our ocean, and in our skies
Hmm.
that move at speeds that no one can
I agree.
calculate or
I agree.
contemplate.
I agree.
And so I think our government has been hiding that information from us for a long time.
I think our government is in collusion with them. They're probably working with them and they're sharing this technology. That I
With
can
the
believe.
aliens?
Yes, that I can believe. That if somebody said somebody pitched that theory, I would say I could probably concur with that because you
That's
got
the
to think.
first I've ever heard anybody say that. That's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
amazing. You giving me pause. I'm trying to process that.
Think about we have Area 51 that no one is allowed to go near and everything
Yeah.
else and the thing and all the alleged creatures and spacecraft and everything else that's been brought there. They have to retransmit that, reverse engineer and all that kind of stuff. It would not be far fetched for me to see them working with these extraterrestrials in exchange for information and everything else. And it may not be just relegated to the United States government. It could be a global, a global exchange. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past it. That's why we have these movies like Men in Black. You it life imitates art. So I wouldn't be surprised.
So now Texas reapportioned, and
Mhm.
you picked up 5 Republican seats. Is that right?
No, it was 5 redistricted seats, but two of them still kind of remain leaning blue. Like Texas 37 is still blue, although they cut out Representative Lloyd Doggett and Representative Kassar. They split those districts, pushed Congressional District 35 down south further, and combined it with some of 15. You still have 37, which is all of Austin. No Republican is going to win in Austin. So
Why
that's
is that? I mean, just
it is a bastion of liberals. That is a I managed the congressional race in this cycle for 37, and think about this. There's 120,000. It was 125,000 vote share between in the Democrat primary to a 15,000 vote share for Republicans in this race. So there's just no way of overcoming. It's a D+24 district. So but they cut it to where you could bring in a larger pool of Republicans, but it's not enough to sway the electorate to make it go red.
so after the redistricting,
Hmm.
what was the net gain for Republicans?
Four.
4. Okay. Well,
Four.
I said 5. I wasn't far off.
Yeah.
But that's negated by California,
True.
which picked up 5
Yeah.
blue seats.
Hmm.
So, but I think Anthony and producer Anthony did a deep dive, and as of a week ago, concluded that we picked up a net of 9 red seats. If that's the case, we should be looking much more optimistically at the midterms.
Correct.
And to me, there's never been a more consequential election than 2024 than there is right now, because without the Congress, we're dead in the water with Trump's agenda.
Correct.
They won't pass anything. They'll obstruct, and they will impeach, and they will do all the stuff that we've watched them do before. They'll continue to lie. They'll continue to fuel Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
And it's really vital that Republicans get off the couch and go vote, and everybody work to get a huge turnout for these midterms.
Yes, absolutely. And that is the key. Unfortunately and traditionally speaking, midterms have always yielded low turnouts in comparison to presidential cycles. So you're right. In order for
lower Republican turnout
yes, lower
than the lower Democrat turnout.
Correct. Yes. Democrats tend to turn. I don't know what it is with this dichotomy we have, but Democrats do turn out higher in midterm elections than they do in presidential, and it's vice versa for Republicans. And so if we want to keep the course and the trajectory of pushing the President Trump's agenda, then we have to be on par with the turnout of what the Democrats have as they have traditionally done. And so I'm optimistic that we might get there in Texas, but the rest of the nation, I don't know. With the redistricting battle going on, that may motivate actually more Democrats and swing voters to come out and vote, and we just get squelched. That could very well be. As we all know, historically speaking, you look at when a president comes in, he has his first 2 years, and they typically change hands at the House in that midterm. So these are just historical facts that we're running up against. But with the redistricting, hopefully that may negate that. But with a net 9 +9 gain seat gain, it may work in our favor. Just depends on who loses or who wins in the upcoming November elections.
Well, so in terms of messaging,
yes,
you said correctly that if we don't keep control of Congress, that we lose the Trump agenda. I'm not sure that it wouldn't be more effective to say that if we don't win the midterm elections, you can usher back in an era of men playing in women's sports, of children being mutilated for sexual trans operations, massive government spending resulting in hyperinflation, and all the lies that go with it. I mean, that's the thing that really bugs me about government is and it's almost seems to me to have gotten to a point where it's accepted. It is both accepted and expected that our governments lie.
Yes.
And I see it all over the place. I've been watching this guy on YouTube who is really good. He's a civil rights activist, and he goes around the country chronicling police abuse. And in every single case, the cops just lie on their reports. And I'm pro law enforcement. I'm pro law and order. But you know what's his name? Eric Chauvin. What was his name?
Derek Chauvin.
Derek Chauvin.
Yep.
What he did is just wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it was murder. And I don't know whether it was manslaughter or murder, but it looked pretty darn intentional to me. And so the knee-jerk reaction is defund the police, defund the police. Well, that makes about as much sense as somebody's drowning, drain the pool.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, is that really going to save the individual? Is that not cutting off the nose to spite the face?
Correct.
And but what we need to do, I think, is have a national movement. And I think this is something that Republicans and Democrats could find commonality in. Hold bad cops accountable.
Oh, amen. Absolutely.
But the system's rigged so that doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So understandably, people become frustrated, outraged, and mad at government. But I've seen what some of these cops have done on these YouTube series. I had my own experience with a cop in Atlanta. I was having dinner at Lenox Mall, which at the time was like one of the largest malls in the nation, still pretty darn big and a nice mall. And my wife and I had gone there for dinner, and it was over the holidays, and you could not find a parking space to save your life. So there was this big white checkered off area that was right outside one of the entrances. And frankly, I mean, I cheated. I know I did, but I parked there for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd slip my car in, especially after hours, because what it really was reserved for delivery trucks. But it was adjacent to a handicap parking sign. Not related, but adjacent to.
Yeah.
And I was on the Young People's Committee at the Shepherd Spinal Center in Atlanta for a number of years, and not parking in a handicap spot was part of my value system. I would just never, ever park in a handicap spot, period, hard stop. So I got back to my car, and there was a ticket on my car saying that I had parked in a handicap spot. Well, Stevie Wonder could tell that it's not a handicap spot.
Right.
It's not a parking spot, but it is a
Yeah.
handicap. So I looked over there, and there's a cop sitting in the car right over there. So I went over and stood about 2 or 3 feet from the car, and he was on his phone. He wouldn't make eye contact. He ignored me. Some little girl came and just got right in front of me, got in his face, put her license right in front of him. He said, "Get out of here. If you don't like it, you go tell the judge." So I just politely continued to stand my ground and wait. He finally got off his phone. He turned around and said, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, I
Wow.
would just like to ask a question about why do you consider that a handicap spot?" He said, "Didn't you hear me tell that young lady, if you don't like it, you go tell the judge?" I said, I didn't say anything except I'm asking a civilized question. Why is it considered handicap? Because I would never, ever park in a handicap spot. He said, "You just go tell the judge." I said, "Go tell the judge what?"
Yeah. That's crazy.
I said, "Why are you treating me like that? Why are you mistreating me? And why did you disrespect that girl?" He picked up his radio, signal 56, signal 56. Good God Almighty. You would have thought I was Bonnie and Clyde all wrapped up into one. Cars, cop cars, security cars came from everywhere. I suddenly found myself surrounded by 15 thug-looking cops acting aggressively towards me.
Wow.
And they said in their report that I was yelling, raising my voice, and gesturing wildly. And I was like, I wasn't yelling. I was scared out of my mind. I wasn't going to provoke those people because my instinct told me that that's exactly what they wanted me to do.
Yep.
So
exactly
I
right.
sat there passively with my arms folded and my hands visible while they detained me for 40 minutes over a frickin' traffic citation.
Did any of them have body cams?
No.
How convenient.
That was a big problem. It was 25 years ago, but you know how God works in mysterious ways. I'm going to try and wrap it up here because I'm taking too long on this story, but it's a good one. So I looked at those cops and I said, you have all the fun you want right now, but come Monday morning, it is going to be my turn. And I promise you, you are going to regret the way you've mistreated me.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of looked at each other like, oh my, I wonder what's coming on, where that's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So laid awake at night for several nights thinking, how could one little guy defend himself against 15 thugs who are all lying flagrantly? And I said, you know what? Lenox Square, I bet you they got security tapes.
Amen.
So we subpoenaed those security tapes, and it revealed exactly what I just told you. My hands never raised above my waist. I was, instead of gesturing wildly, I was sitting there subdued because I was fearful. And a buddy of mine walked by and he said, John, what's going on, man? I said, just stand right there, please. I'm in fear of bodily harm from these people, and I need a witness.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, okay. And so long story made short, I took that officer to court and required all the others to come as witnesses. They did not like that. And I had the security tapes, and we proved that they were liars and that they had mistreated me. So the judge, the consequence was he dismissed the case. They went on their merry way so they could go mistreat somebody else, and nothing happened to them. But I was so pissed off, I filed a civil lawsuit against Sergeant Ronald Minneatis. That's right. He's right there for our Atlanta listeners. And I'm telling you, this is a bad guy. And I ordered his internal affairs records, and I'm telling you, it was 3 feet tall.
Wow.
26 complaints in 24 years at that time. And nothing happened to him. The judge ruled that he had sovereign immunity when the Supreme Court of Georgia, in an identical case, said that a police officer acting off duty for a private employer sovereign immunity does not extend to them. So anyway, I just went through that
crazy.
long story to tell you that police abuse of authority in this country is real.
Oh,
and I
absolutely.
don't like it. Now, don't you write me, johngordontruth@gmail.com, and telling me that I'm anti-law enforcement, because I'm not. Because I went into the worst neighborhood in America, remodeled a house that I raised the money to remodel. It was, tens of thousands of dollars. And in the middle of the hood, we made it a really nice house, and we moved 2 Atlanta police officers into that house, and they lived there rent-free, because I do support police officers if they are good police officers.
That's the
But
key.
there are a lot of bad apples. And you know what? You know whose fault it is?
Our neighbors, the people in those communities.
Bingo. It is our fault. You know why?
Yeah.
Because we don't want to pay them. We chintz out on people who literally put their lives on the line and at risk every day to guarantee our safety.
True.
And then when we get stopped for speeding or a traffic violation, we raise hell and call them bad names. And there's nothing they can do about it except get mad and mistreat us.
Yeah.
But so it's a two-edged sword.
I agree.
I do see both sides of it. But there seem to be more cops who are on power trips and abuse people than there are. Like the guy who pulled me over for speeding 30 years ago. And he said, Mr. Gordon, I clocked you. You were going 40 and then 50 and then 60. I was going to let you go. But when you got to 60, I couldn't wait until 70. So I pulled you over. What's going on? He was so nice that it made me feel bad. And there was no way I was going to act out towards him.
Yep.
But then Sergeant Minneatis was just a first class, power crazed, lying 26 citizen complaints with 2 homicides. Now, in his defense, the first homicide, totally justified. He used his revolver for his own self-defense after half of his cheek had been blown off. Now, I had a lot of sympathy and compassion for him for that, but he used that experience as leverage to do whatever he
He
wanted to
wanted to
do.
do, yeah, and
And
that, I
he
don't agree
killed
with that.
another man who was found to be unarmed, no witnesses, in the middle of the night. And you read the report, it made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. So I don't know. It's a complicated situation, but I think it would be solvable if
Yeah.
cities and jurisdictions would simply demand accountability for bad actions. It
Hmm.
would stop. It would stop it in a nanosecond.
I
But right
agree.
now, they just beat the system. They
I
don't get it.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you, John. And but on the flip side, there is a flip side to that. You have bad cops that are generated because you have bad district attorneys who go after good cops, and so and that's the case we have here in Austin, Texas. You got the DA here, Jose Garza. He goes after good cops for doing their job or actually protecting the community, and bring them up on charges of murder and everything else that you can name under the sun. And then you like the cops are like, man, if I'm gonna get prosecuted for doing my job, and my livelihood is gonna be in jeopardy, let me start doing some dirty stuff, and making sure I got me a little nest egg on the side case because I don't know what's gonna happen to me or my family. So you have that little world going on as
No,
well, and
no,
then
no
not
question.
to
Then
just
you've got liberal leftist judges,
yes,
and the
yes,
cop goes before the judge, and they're made to feel like they're the enemy.
correct,
And so
yeah,
like I said, it is definitely a
yeah, it's a
two-edged
mess.
sword.
I agree.
And I don't know whether when you were on a few weeks ago, I raised this with you, but I think we should start a national conversation with a simple question on what can we agree?
Yeah.
Can we agree that we want a law abiding citizenry, that we
Hmm.
don't rape, rob, and murder our fellow human beings, and
Hmm.
that we empower the police to do their jobs without being disrespected?
Right.
And, and that jurisdictions meaningfully hold cops that abuse their
The power.
citizens
Yeah.
out of line, that they're held accountable. They either get demoted, they get their salary reduced, they get suspended, they get further training, or they get terminated.
Hmm.
I think that if that were to happen, you would see a complete 180-degree change in the way citizens look at cops and the
Yeah.
way that cops look at citizens. And then, like you say, if we can get rid of the Soros DAs,
Hmm.
then we get this country back on the right track.
And to add to that, the culture of serving to and protecting, that culture in the police community has seemingly gone away over the years. I remember growing up in Chicago. Uh, I was not afraid of the police in Chicago growing up, and
You were not.
no, I was not. We
Mm.
we actually used to go down to the police station on field trips, and they had like a little junior cop program, and it provided you lunch and everything else. But and they brought you home. They would pick you up and bring you back home. And that was the early '90s, and back then the one logo, the one banner that was on the side of those police cars was to serve and to protect. You don't
Hmm.
see that anymore. You don't see that
Yeah,
with police
what you
cars.
see is the blue line,
Yeah.
and it's
Hmm.
us against them,
Yes.
and it's a
Yes.
cultural thing that has
It is a
got to
culture.
change. And I
Absolutely.
love Trump, but his steadfast appeal to law enforcement, while I get the sentiment, I don't get the lack of accountability. And until that changes, it's only going to get worse.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that will further exacerbate the us against them mentality. So
Right.
we've just, so I think on what can we agree? Can we agree that we're not going to mistreat our law enforcement people and that we're
Absolutely.
going to support them
Absolutely.
and that we're
Yeah.
going to hold them accountable when
At the
necessary?
same time. Yeah. Just
That
like our
would,
politicians.
it's
Just like
not
anybody.
complicated.
It's not. It's just like anybody in society, no matter what your profession is. You treat the good ones, like you treat everybody like they should be treated. And then when they, step out of line, you hold them accountable. That should this shouldn't even be a conversation, John. That's the crazy part. This is common sense stuff.
Yeah.
Like, people in society should be acting accordingly to the laws and the cultures in which they live. And if you're out of line, then it is a responsibility of not only the people but your family to get you back in line and hold you accountable for your actions.
Yeah.
And so we gotten away from that. You know, we turn a blind eye. We say, oh, it's none of my business. Let me keep moving. Or we go overboard with it. And, you know, we try to take things to the extreme with people. And it's not necessary sometimes. Sometimes people just wake up in a bad mood. They didn't get enough sleep that night and they just go out and do something stupid that day. Correct the course and keep it moving. You know,
Yeah.
we got away from that. And it's sad. It's very sad.
So do we keep the do we keep the Congress in the midterms? What's your prediction?
Good question. I love that question. I think there would be a few departures, but to a whole majority, I would say yes, but it's not going to be a big majority. The Republicans will maintain majority. I would say maybe by 4 seats at best, 4 seats.
Does Paxton win?
Hmm. My predictions currently say no, but I am optimistic that he will pull it
It's
off.
not possible. That's not possible. His opponent thinks that there's six sexes.
I agree.
He is in
Yes.
favor of men playing women's sports.
Yes.
He is in favor of trans procedures
Mhm.
for without parental consent.
Yeah.
I mean, he is for everything that is wrong,
With
not
society right now.
in Texas or the United States, but on any kind of a human level. It's just damn wrong.
True.
And if
But
Paxton doesn't beat that clown, then we're doomed.
here's why I say that, John. You look at the 2018 election between Senator Cruz and Beto O'Rourke. Senator Cruz and these two are you could kind of like consider like mainstream in terms of their wits and everything, but Ted Cruz beat O'Rourke by 2 points. And
It was a
very
nail
close.
biter at the end.
Yes, yes, and even with Colin Allred's race just this last in 24 when Ted Cruz was back on the ballot, he beat Allred by I believe it was 8 points, 6 or 8 points. So and Allred was just as extreme as we have in Tallarico, and so there is this culture in Texas that actually support these progressive ideologies and everything else, and it's a prevailing culture of these people. So that's why I said I don't know. When you look at the baggage that Ken Paxton brings to the table in comparison to Tallarico, people are like, yeah, well, hey, yeah, he's a little crazy, but we could control that, and
You
but
can't fix
you can
crazy.
control.
You
Yeah, you
can't control
can. I
crazy.
agree. I agree.
Somebody that thinks
Yeah, I
that they
agree
can
with you
do
there.
that is
Yeah,
themselves crazy. I
that
will
is
tell you
true.
the difference, I think, between this guy, what's his name? You just said it, Talrico or something
Tallarico,
like that,
yeah. James
and
Tallarico.
O'Rourke is O'Rourke was whether you like his politics or not, he had to me a seemingly likable personality.
Correct.
I watched Talrico, and he just made me cringe, and I wanted to throw
Yes.
something at the television.
Yes, he is a cringy guy. Yeah.
O'Rourke did not trigger me in that way, but that's a focus group of one. I don't know whether
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
people will
The-
respond similarly or not.
right.
And that when you talk about Paxton, I don't know him well, but I know him well enough to have held a fundraiser for him in Palm Beach, Florida, in my residence, and we were supposed to have 20 people come to an after party for an event that was at Mar-a-Lago, and these 20 people were going to be prospective donors for Ken Paxton in his AG race a few years ago. And so I spent time with him. I talked to him. He's been on The Truth, and we have texted back and forth with each other. The things that you hearken back to, he was acquitted of. People say he was impeached by the
Yes. Yeah. He was
Texas
acquitted. Correct.
legislature. But the fact of the matter is, yes, he was impeached, but he was acquitted
Acquitted. Correct.
in the impeachment.
Correct.
And so I don't think you can hang that on around him.
No, 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 absolutely not. Absolutely not. No,
And
no.
so, I mean, I don't even remember what the charges were.
It was bribery and abuse of power of his office, and there was one more thing, linkage to like affairs and stuff like that. and it's not a lot of people's, I guess you could say, pushback on Paxton currently is not even related to the impeachment trial. It's not even related to that. It's the after the fact. Now they're bringing up, how he only put, a pedophile in jail for 1 day. They're bringing those kind of things up. How
I
he,
think the punishment
Mhm.
for pedophilia should be death,
Amen.
and they should do it in the town square with a rope. I'm serious.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yes.
the danger is that you make a mistake, that you convict a guilty person, and that's not hyperbole, because in your own state, the Innocence Project has freed dozens of
Dozens of
men
people. Yes.
who were on death row, and
Hmm.
DNA evidence that was subsequently
Correct.
uncovered caused them to be acquitted,
Yes.
and released from prison. So that is a real risk that I'm very
Hmm.
sensitive to. But if you can, with beyond a reasonable doubt,
Yeah.
where the evidence is overwhelming, show that someone took advantage of a young
Hmm.
child, I think that is the unpardonable sin.
I agree.
And
100%.
I don't think I could ever be brought to violence, but I can tell you
Oh, I can.
that would probably do it for me. If
Yeah.
anything would do it for me,
Hmm.
that would. And that's why I think, and there has been a murmur, like if you're underwater and you're just right here and you're sipping air through a straw, and you can hear a murmur. There has been a murmur under the current of pedophilia in this country now for 7 or 8 or 10 years, and I've been in complete denial of it. But then you read these accounts that are coming out of the Epstein files,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
it is alarming beyond measure. And
Yes.
I think that that's why Trump doesn't want the information to get out, that it will just be too overwhelming, and it will be shameful for too many people in high places, that
Hmm.
everybody will know their names. And but we need a cleansing in America today.
Hmm.
I think
I
that
agree.
those sins should be a light should be shined on them, that there should be public humiliation, and whatever appropriate punishment goes along with it. But until we get serious, I mean, you know, if you or I jaywalk, we'll
Oh,
get
yeah.
thrown in jail.
You
And
ain't
these
lying.
people can lie, cheat, steal, take bribes, insider trading. Adam Schiff can lie to the American people for 2 years about
Hmm.
incontrovertible evidence proving Russia collusion with the Trump 2016 campaign,
Yeah.
and he is not touched.
Exactly.
He may get his hand slapped, he may get embarrassed, but where is the punishment for this demon?
Hmm.
I am
Exactly.
so ready for him to get off the national stage and to take assign the seat that he is deserving of, which is in a mental institution, because I think he's a
Yeah.
sociopath. No, I
He
really
is.
do.
He is. No, I
I
agree
mean,
with you. He
anybody
is.
who can look
Yeah.
in the camera and lie like he can and have no remorse or a conscience about it is in serious demonic need of help.
Yes.
And when he was censured by the United States Congress for lying, do you know what his response was? He said he wore it with a badge of honor.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Good
I was just
God.
saying he was proud of. Yeah, I was going to say he said something along the lines of he was proud of it. Yeah, and that's the problem with the politicians that we have in today's society. And this is globally. This is not just in the United States. This is just across the world. Politicians, anybody that's in government, it is almost a prerequisite that you have to lie to people in order to get the job.
No,
And people are
no,
and people are okay with
never,
that. People
never.
are okay with this,
No,
and we see it
I
all
am
the
not.
time. I'm not either. I try in my politics and my philosophy, my political philosophy. I try to do everything with integrity, with honor, and with truth. And
Well,
whether no
I can
matter
just
how
tell you,
bad it is,
when
it is what it is.
when
Yeah,
when I was in the second grade, I went over to my neighbor's house, and he was painting his fence, and he had two daughters, and they were really pretty, and they were a little older than I was, so I tried to enjoy their company every chance I got, and they were painting that fence, and I went over and I said, I'd like to help paint the fence, and they gave me a paintbrush, and I was painting away, and I don't know, at some point, I guess I touched the fence for some innocently, no malicious intent, And the dad came by and said, "Good God, who put their hand on this fence?" Everybody was looking at each other and nobody said a word. I was like, I ain't saying anything. He said, "All right, everybody turn your hands over. Show me your palms." I turned my hand over and it was covered with red paint. You go home. I have never felt so ashamed in my entire life.
Yeah.
Not that I touched the fence, but I didn't fess up to it.
There's a fess up to
And
it, yeah.
and so, I mean, here I am, 73, like 67 years later, 68 years later, and I still remember the lesson. And I just told the voters in Georgia, I said, you asked me a question, I'm going to tell you what I believe and what I think.
Yeah.
And if it's so objectionable to you that you can't vote for me, I understand, no hard feelings, but I am not going to lie to you.
Right. Absolutely. And that's my philosophy as well. You know, you may not like how I say it, you may not like what you hear, but it's going to be the truth. You know,
Yeah.
and I always tell people, you know, I swore an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States, not your feelings. And so, however I deliver something is just how I deliver it. That's just my persona. It is what it is. And people, you know, at first they kind of get taken aback by it. They're like, "Oh, that's evil. That's mean." And it's like, no, it's the truth. Truth hurts sometimes. It is what it is. So,
Well, there was a famous line by, I think it was Dustin Hoffman. Who was it? Somebody that said, yeah, truth is like poetry, and nobody likes poetry. And that kind of says it all to me.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But I think we
Yes.
you know, we got to put on our adult face and just, you know, be willing to hear and accept the truth, and then be willing to act upon it.
Correct.
And that's my hope for this country and our culture. One, that we all get along. Like Rodney King said, why can't we all just get along? And I've come up with the answer. I know why we can't get along, Randy. Our leaders don't want us to.
Exactly.
When Barack Obama had a chance to bring us together, he forced us apart. And I'm sorry, when Tiger Woods had a chance to bring us together, he pushed us apart. And I don't think that Donald Trump has been a particularly good healer. The problem is that politicians are politicians, and they're going to say what is going to help them and portray them in the most favorable light, not to the masses, but to their base.
Yep.
And I just, you know, I'll never be a good politician because I'm just not going to stoop to it.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
And if that's what it takes, count me out. But it seems to me that also, if on what can we agree? On what can we agree? How about we just adopt the 10 Commandments?
Simple enough.
And we don't have to put it in biblical terms. We'll just say, don't kill. Don't cheat on your spouse. Put it in, you know, let somebody in South Georgia write it. Man, don't you cheat on your wife. Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Plain layman's terms. Yeah.
But just get it, you know, take the
English.
religious component out of it. Tell me which commandment
You know,
can we
there's
not
no-
agree on?
Right. And there's
The ninth commandment, I would like it. I mean, I would like it to be number 2, because that takes care of a whole bunch of the rest. Don't bear false witness.
with this. Yep. There you go.
Don't covet thy neighbor's wife. I mean, those are lies. Just
Yeah.
make thou shall not lie number 2 on the list, and I think several others go away. We boil it down and make it a simpler list to remember.
Correct. And why? And John, my question to your audience is, and it's something for them to think about. Why is it that the 10 Commandments has to be considered something of religion, and not just something of common sense? That, you know, just just a basic set of rules to live by. You know, we demonized doing the right thing, and it talks about this in the Bible as well. You know that the times will turn bad when things that are seen as good is now bad, and things that are bad are now good. You
Yeah.
know, and so we this is where we at now. You know, when we say, "Oh, the Ten Commandments," they're like, "Oh my God, you talk about the Ten Commandments?" It's like, well, what's wrong with that? You know, and this is where we at in society right now. People want to equate religion as a bad thing when it's actually a moral compass for us to just look to when we are in questionable times.
Well, it also requires everyone to get on board.
Yes,
And the number one victims of black crime are black people. And
true.
so I've always felt like that if we could help humanize and have young black men, and I'm not singling out black people, but the statistics prove it to be true
I
that
agree.
most violent crime is committed by young black men, and most of the victims, the overwhelming majority, I think it's in the 90s,
90%.
are
Right.
are their are
Black
their
men.
peers.
Yes,
What a
absolutely.
shame! What
It
a
is.
crying shame! And I just sense that I've got this fantasy, but it's a good one, that if we could just expose them to the pain, the trail of grief that they are
Mm,
going to result in with other people in that person's family, and the victim is not going to feel the pain, maybe momentarily, maybe in the act, but it's a split second. So if you're going to inflict pain on someone, murder should not be the answer.
correct.
That would be the worst form of retribution you could get against the victim, because they're gone. They're not
Hmm.
going to suffer.
Right.
They will rest in peace. On the
Hmm.
other hand, their relatives, their brothers, their sisters, their
It's,
moms, their dads, and aunts, and uncles, and their friends are all going to be left in this wake of overwhelming grief.
hmm
And so, why can we not outreach to these young men? And, they probably just need love.
Yes, that's all it is. It's love and the right kind of attention, not just
That's
giving them
right.
attention, not just giving them attention just to be giving them attention just to appease them for the moment. It's the attention of identifying where are they lacking the empathy, where are they lacking the emotional control, and actually coaching them and training them and teaching them how to deal with that mental anguish, whatever that may be. And that's the problem that a lot of young black men are having these days is they lack the emotion because they have deleted it out of their system because they don't know how to deal with it. So they go out and they commit crimes, they kill people, or they say things to somebody, they disrespect people because they lack the emotional intelligence required to deal with society. And so once we identify and address that problem, you'll see a 180-degree shift in how young people, it's not just relegated to black people or black young men. This is relegated across, our society today, that young people are just generally disrespectful. And so however they want to deal with the issue at hand, they resort to violence first, talk later. And then they don't care about the consequences because there's no sense of accountability that's coded in them. So they see jail as three hots in a cot, and they don't have to deal with society. So that's the problem that we have today with our culture.
Well, there are a lack of role models,
Yes,
and
severely.
and that doesn't just speak to the black community, but
Right, right.
divorce is just as not as prevalent, but pretty worse than it should be in the white community as well. But I really, if you want to place blame, and I want you to tell me if I'm wrong, and my purpose is not to offend, but I
Sure.
think there is a shortage of black leaders. And I don't mean politicians, I mean real
Leaders.
leaders.
Yes.
And Marvin Arrington, who was a judge in Fulton County, whom I actually know reasonably well, and Bill Cosby were on a crusade to
Mm-hmm.
help coach and discipline people who came into the courtroom disrespectfully towards the judge. And they really dressed them down. And both of those men got such tremendous blowback. They were racist. They were Uncle Tom. They were this. They were that.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you attack this young boy? And the fact of the matter is, they were young boys. They were like 16 years old, coming into the courtroom with their pants down to their knees and acting like that they were owed no one and accountable to no one. And
Mm-hmm.
so the judge would scold them. Now, my dad would not have scolded me.
No.
He would have just sent me to my room, had me lay down on my
Across
stomach on the bed while he
Yep.
thrashed my butt.
Yep.
And I'm not for really corporal punishment like I used to be. I don't know. I think we've maybe gone beyond it. But I can tell you, it sure did teach me a lot of self-discipline and on some levels gave me a huge amount of respect. And for one thing, I knew not to cross my daddy
Mm-hmm.
or my
Yep.
mama because
True.
she was even worse
She was
or
worse. Yep.
better.
Yeah, yeah, and absolutely, you're absolutely right, and that's the difference in the cultures. And I don't mean cultures as in ethnicities and backgrounds. I mean cultures as in generations,
Yeah.
generational cultures.
Yes.
It's a difference because, like you, I grew up and I was out of line. My mom was she would give me that look like check, and there's nothing else out of it. She would just let me continue on. And then when Dad came around, she would give him the report, and it's like, let's go outside. And it was like, snap, I'm in trouble. And yeah, and
Well,
he wouldn't do it privately. He would kick my butt in front of my friends, and he would like let that be a lesson to you all as well. If you do something that I don't approve of, I'm coming after you next, type of thing. So that was that. To your point, yes, we do lack black mentors, black leadership in the communities today because it is frowned upon to actually engage with children or engage with other adults and say, "Hey, you're not doing the right thing," because it's going back to the mind your business mentality.
yeah.
And then you also have those that are willing to mentor and coach and be leaders in the community. They lack the resources and the bandwidth because there's so many issues that they just can't tackle them all. But they also lack the resources necessary to actually affect what's going on in these communities. So
Well, but you
you're
know
right.
what? We can all play a role.
Yes.
And I don't think you have to be black to mentor a black kid.
No.
I
No.
don't think you
Absolutely
have to
not.
be white to mentor a white kid. I don't think you
Yeah.
have to be necessarily Christian to mentor a kid. Although I think it's desirable if we could adopt the Ten Commandments, regardless of religion. And I interviewed somebody, or I didn't interview them, but I'm going to, but I spoke with them at some length the other day over
Yeah.
the phone, and this individual was a descendant of a king in Nigeria, and she had actually converted from Christianity to Islam. Is that what you call it?
Mm-hmm.
And
Islam. Yeah.
Islam, and had read the Bible and the Quran, and she said that the books are more similar than they are different, and that there are components in the Quran that really support the Ten Commandments. So
Mm-hmm.
I just continue to think on what can we agree, and on one thing, can we agree that being able to have a healthy, honest, real conversation between all species on this earth is a healthy thing? Because Randy, I love
Mm-hmm.
you, brother. I mean,
Yeah. Love
I
you too.
enjoy talking to you so much, and I can say things that I'm uncomfortable saying, but I feel like need to be said, and you don't respond with anger or pushback, and we just sort of work through it together. And
Yeah.
I think if all people did that, this would be a wonderful place to live.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is the problem that we have in our culture today is that we get offended just for trying to have a conversation.
Oh my gosh.
People don't want to talk about anything because it's too sensitive, it's taboo, and I'm a very big pushback. I push back so hard against the idea of don't discuss religion and politics in the workplace and all. I'm like, man, look, religion and politics is already in the workplace. Where do you think these policies came from? They were derived from politics. Where do you think the culture of wearing the dress code and all that came from? It came from religion. So don't tell me let's not talk about religion and politics because it's taboo or it might offend somebody. Hell, we're already offended because we got up at 8 o'clock in the morning to come to work. So I'm offended. I'm offended that you're offended. And so
That's it.
that is where we at today. And if we can mature ourselves and materialize enough willpower to say, let me get over my emotional my mental state of emotions and engage in this conversation and have that exchange of ideas, exchange of feelings, and say, hey, okay, yeah, I see where you're coming from, but here's my perspective, and that dialogue goes back and forth. We could accomplish so much. We won't even need politicians. They would come around and say, "Oh, vote for me. I'm going to do this." It's like, yeah, we already agreed that you're not going to do that. So how about you have a seat and we're going to come and take your job? And that's how we actually fix our society. That's how we fix our government. And until we get there, we're going to continue to have these problems. And because media is also the problem in our society. They keep us divided on behalf of the politicians. And when media gets involved, we get into these silos and listen to the headline news and the 5 second story clips, and we formulate our opinions based on that silo and that narrative that's being pushed. And those politicians come along when we see them at the city halls and the town hall meetings or go to their websites. We see that same regurgitated narrative that's being pushed by their buddy media. This is where we at. We get into this split, this dichotomized society, and we don't know what the truth is anymore. We just go based on what we feel is the truth. So
Man, that sounds to me like a great theme for a book. Oh, wait, it is.
well,
It's
wait.
called Polarizing
Polarizing
America
America.
by
Yes,
Randy Perham. It's worth a
absolutely.
read. Boy,
Yes,
he gets
thank
a
you.
pretty penny for it, but where do we get it, Randy?
You can pick it up on anywhere the books are sold. That's Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can go order online and check it out. Yes, I talk about how the media destroyed our society essentially, and how many of the listeners today, they probably don't even listen to legacy media anymore. They're actually turning to podcasts and shows like ours and like yours. They say, you know what, this is what I need. Is you still get current events in, you still get opinion, but you also get an explanation of the opinion versus like I said, that 15-second clip of pushing a narrative and that's it. You hear nothing else about it ever again. And so I think that it's a great read for the American people, for people across the world. Just to understand how we're being manipulated, how we're being conditioned, institutionalized in a way that actually keeps us pitted against each other from actually making effective change in our society.
Randy Perham, ladies and gentlemen. He is an author, a patriot, a veteran, an entrepreneur, and a Republican political activist down there in the great state of Texas. And, if I may be so presumptuous, and my friend. Randy
Absolutely.
Perham, thank you for coming on The Truth, and you're
Thank
welcome
you
back
for having me.
anytime.
Thank you,
Have a,
sir. Thank you for having me.
have a
God
great
bless.
rest of your day.
You too. Thank you. God bless.
God bless you, and God save America. Our studio sponsor is Bone Frog Coffee, and it's veteran owned, founded by retired Navy SEAL Tim Cruikshank as a tribute to his fallen teammates in the Naval Special Warfare community. We're going to get Tim to come on The Truth in the very near future and talk to us about his time in the Navy Special Forces and Bone Frog Coffee, where each bag tells a story and gives a peek behind the curtain of special ops. If you don't already know, the bone frog is a sacred symbol in the SEAL teams that represents those who give their lives in combat and is a reminder of the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom and the American way of life. Every bag, premium, small batch roasted from top shelf Arabica beans, smooth, low acid, no robusta junk. Think bold blends like Frogman Dark Roast or the classic Bone Frog Medium. Tastes like freedom in a cup. And here's the real deal, a chunk of every sale goes right to helping SEAL vets and Gold Star families, aiming for $500,000 donated. Coffee with a cause? You bet. That's not a slogan. It's brotherhood brewed daily. Head to bonefrogcoffee.com, snag some K cups, whole bean, or merchandise. Use the promo code TRUTH. Start your day just like I do. Fuel up, stay sharp, and remember, service before self. Support our veterans and thank Bone Frog for sponsoring our studio. Check them out now at bonefrogcoffee.com. Sheriff Richard Mack is the founder of the Constitutional Sheriffs Movement. He's been on The Truth before. We talked to him about his book, which is entitled The Democrat Murder of America. Wow, that's a bold title. Welcome back to the show, Sheriff Mack.
Thanks, John. It's great to be back with you. Every time I hear that title, it really kind of sends chills up and down my spine because it's all true, especially when you look at the subtitle, The Democrat Murder of America, Demagoguery in the First Degree. And they're guilty of all of that. First of all, the Democrat Party is guilty of treason. They're guilty of cheating. They're guilty of lying. They're guilty of conspiring with the national media to destroy our country and to destroy anybody that gets in their way. And yes, they will do anything: lie, cheat, steal, commit fraud, bring in criminals from all over the world, and murder. And we're ready. We're ready to go to court if they want to sue us for defamation, because they have no standing in any of that, because we'll be glad to prove every charge that we make in the book.
Sheriff, you and I are in violent agreement. I mean, it is just bewildering to me.
Yes.
I mean, it's like I'm living in an alternate reality that they have politicized law enforcement and prevented them from enforcing the laws that they voted to enact.
Yes.
It boggles the mind how people could be so duplicitous and completely lack a conscience. I mean, I think that there's a word for that, and I think it's called sociopath. And when I see Adam Schiff doubling down on the fact that he had evidence of President Trump colluding with Russia, and just this week, Tulsi Gabbard, on her way out, declassified a document that was authored by the intelligence community in 2018 that was decisively stated that there was no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Yet he goes on national television as the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and signed a receipt that he had read that document, knowingly lied to the American people, knowingly perpetrated a 3-year investigation into the president, duly elected president, knowingly caused the country to go through an impeachment that was based on a lie. Where is the accountability? That's what I want to know. Where is the accountability?
Well, we hope a lot of it is in this book, and because they are such liars. And the way the book came about is I was actually on a podcast about 6 months ago with Daniel Perkins, and he's not really well known in the freedom circuit because he's an author and a very prolific one, very successful one, but he writes fiction and he writes books for children. And he's done a lot of great works. I had never heard of him before he had me on his podcast.
Yeah, me either.
And then I actually, during the podcast, he asked me if I had written any books. And I said, yeah, I've written 8 books. And one is a novel. It's a fiction book, but it has lots of nonfiction in it that of stuff that actually happened to me in my law enforcement career. But so he said, well, I'm going to send you a Zoom link as soon as we're done here, and I want you to show me your books. Well, I showed them to him, and he said, I want to write a book with you. We've got to write a book this year for the 2026 midterms. I said, great, let's do it. And then he told me what he wanted to do, and I came up with the title, and then we kind of worked it out together. He loved it. He loved the cover. Have you seen the cover yet of the book?
Yeah, I got it right here in my hands.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you want to show it to your audience here, that's great with me, because it's very bold, just like the title.
It does. It is an attention getter, if nothing less, or nothing else. But I totally agree with you. And I've been saying it. I've been sensing it, and
put it up. Wait. Put it up closer to where the back of the. Okay, now take it to right, and then a little bit. Okay, everybody see that? It has a jackass. That's the book. The big capital blowing up in the background is on the back, but the front cover is the jackass stabbing the Statue of Liberty in the back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I get an autographed copy of the book? I'll send you. How much is it? Let's see.
Absolutely.
Where do we buy it? On Amazon, I would imagine.
Well, we don't have it on Amazon yet. The ebook is available right now at murderofamerica.com. Murderofamerica.com. www.murderofamerica.com. All one word. And any of you can get the ebook right now. The first printing of the paperback book will be ready in about 4 or 5 days.
Okay. So, well, I'm going to go buy the ebook. I'm preparing a talk that I'm giving on July the 8th, right after we celebrate the 250th anniversary of our country, to the Palm Beach Christian Men's Association. And I asked them if it could have political overtones, and they said yes. My intention is not to be political. My intention is not to put forth my own bias, but my intention is to tell the truth about how endangered this country is, because we have got people from within that I am convinced are trying to undo us. And I don't know what the end game is that they want to do, but if I was going to try and architect how to destroy the greatest country on earth, I would do exactly what these people are doing over and over and over again. We just saw, what's the name of that outfit? The Southern
Poverty Law Center. They've been going after me for 30 years, and they did exactly to me what they just got indicted for. Yeah. And I'm letting everybody know I want to testify.
Well, I'd like to testify also, not with specific knowledge about that NGO, but I have worked in the worst zip code in America for the last 20 years. It's called English Avenue, and it's in Atlanta, Georgia. It is the worst zip code for HIV per capita of any zip code in America. They have obesity, diabetes, illiteracy, homelessness, joblessness, hopelessness. Yeah. And I've gone into that neighborhood for 20 years, as have others now that have joined us to try and help rehabilitate. The thing that just sticks out to me, there are 6,000 people that live in this zip code. The people that I know, and hundreds on a first name basis, and they all know me, and I roam the streets without fear because they embrace me, they love me, and I love them. They are kind, God-fearing human beings. But the leadership actually had the nerve to picket me when we went there one day for a fundraiser that we traditionally held at the Lindsay Street Baptist Church. Rich Buckhead, go home. We don't want your money. When we were there with no agenda other than to help people that needed it. And now today, 20 years later, the neighborhood is much, much better, largely due to the efforts of the Arthur Blank Foundation. He is one of the founders of Home Depot and owns the Atlanta Falcons, and Dan Cathy, who owns Chick-fil-A. They followed in our footsteps every step of the way, but they had the capacity. And that's what I had dreamed of, is that the other people would come and join the party. And it has been a huge success. But the point I'm trying to make is I don't see them when I'm there as black. I see them as human. And I don't think they see me as white. But the leadership has gone berserk to try and stop us and divide us and to invoke race. And I'm just sick of it. And I see it repeated time and again across this country.
I would love to be invited to that sometime.
Well, I'd welcome you. I'd take you there personally, and we'll walk the streets, and you can talk to the very people I'm speaking of. They are just sweet, nice people. And I've had the pleasure of, they invite me every Thanksgiving to come and give the message at the Lindsay Street Baptist Church. And it fills my heart with joy to see the goodness, the real goodness in these people. And the only difference between them and you and me is that they got they drew a bad card in life. They were born into their circumstances, but they don't hate. They don't hate. Other than Abel Mabel Thomas, the state representative from that area, I've never received one negative or bad word, none. But the leadership. And I asked the late Ivory Young, who was a good friend of mine, a city councilman in Atlanta, I said, Ivory, why do they treat me? Why do they treat us the way they do? He said, John, come on, you know.
You're stomping on their territory. You're stomping on their territory.
They are the poverty pimps. They don't want it to change.
Right.
That's their power.
Yeah, they promote racism, just like the Southern Poverty Law Center. They promote it, or they're out of work, and the fear mongering, all of this is in the book. Fear mongering, the race baiting, and you reminded me of something else. I've just got to tell you about the book. Do you remember Nikita Khrushchev from Russia?
Banged his foot on the podium at the UN.
Yeah.
Famously.
Well, he when I was a kid, he scared me to death.
Yeah.
He was ugly. He was mean looking, and he was always yelling. When he was giving a speech, he was always pounding his fist and yelling. And he threatened America with a warning, with almost a prophecy, if you will, because we all thought he was crazy at the time. And everything he warned us about has come to fruition. Everything that he predicted would happen to America. He said, you Americans are so gullible. You say you're against communism. You say you're against socialism, but you will wake up one day and realize that you took enough socialism, piecemeal socialism, that you'll all wake up one day and be a communist country. And everything that he warned us about is actually being brought to life.
Well, you can thank Franklin Delano Roosevelt for starting it.
Yeah.
Lyndon Baines Johnson for fueling it.
Yes.
And a long lineage of politicians that have fed
let me
into
make
it
one other point about
for
that.
political gain.
The end point I'm making is that the Democrat Party has done everything that makes true what Nikita Khrushchev warned us about.
Yeah.
His threats to us have been made true by the Democrat Party, 100%.
Well, it was the Democrats that were members of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, they formed it.
It was the Democrats that fought ending slavery. It was Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president of the United States, who created a civil war over ending slavery, and he successfully did so. And it was the Republicans that pushed back against the Dixiecrats from my home state of Georgia, for instance, that did not want to pass the Civil Rights Act. Yet they're the ones who speak so virtuously about ending racism, out of one side of their mouth, but what their deeds do, like with the Southern Poverty Law Center, they fuel it. And it is just so hypocritical and so utterly duplicitous.
You just described our chapter, the history of the Democrats.
Yeah.
And that's a chapter dedicated. We do exactly what you talked about. We go right through the piecemeal of it. But the question we answer is the freed blacks and black Americans were like 95% for the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
They voted straight Republican. What happened that the black community switched so abruptly and left the Republicans and started going with the Democrats? And we document that. And at first was FDR and his new deal about saving us from the Depression, which he actually made worse. But he was quite the racist himself. If you'll recall, in 1936, Jesse Owens was the greatest athlete in the world. And then when the Olympic team came back to America, they were all invited to the White House, except for the black athletes, including Jesse Owens, the most celebrated athlete in the world, was not welcome to the White House because of FDR's racism. And no one ever wants to talk about that either, because FDR is the greatest Democrat ever. He was wonderful, the New Deal, and then JFK brought about a little bit, but then finally Johnson consummated all of that with the black community when he made a deal with Martin Luther King, and that he declared a war on poverty. And we've spent $5 trillion on poverty, and it's worse now today than it was then. So the whole thing, we go through the history of that. We show how the Democrats were so shrewd in switching that and getting the black community on their side. And it's all historic fact, and it's all subterfuge from the Democrat Party.
Man, Sheriff Mack, I hope you don't have dinner plans tonight, because we can stay here until breakfast tomorrow morning sifting through this. I have so many things I want to talk to you about. You talked about Nikita Khrushchev. Do you know that he and John Kennedy were back channeling one another and having confidential off-the-record conversations? Because do you know what common bond they shared?
No.
They were both fearful of a nuclear war. They both realized it would not be the end of our country or theirs. It would be literally the end of humanity.
Yeah.
And they were talking off the record and secretively about how to disarm both countries' nuclear arsenals.
Right.
And then the next thing you know, John Kennedy is savagely, I mean, that's the thing that just really, I was home from the fourth grade. Our listeners are tired of hearing me say it. But I went down to watch television. Had the flu. I got out of bed, went down and watched television with my mom. And we sat there and watched the news flashes come out about the assassination of the president. And as a 10-year-old, I could not put it together. But I'll tell you something else. And I'm not making this up. This is true as God is my witness. It did not make sense to me then.
No, and I was 11, and I said the exact same thing.
Yeah. It on some level, it didn't feel right to me. I mean, I'm not talking about the dastardly deed. I'm just talking about the whole narrative.
Yeah, the whole thing
didn't square with me as a 10-year-old. But I just compartmentalized it and said, you're a 10-year-old. You have to learn as you get older. Well, what I learned as I got older was to trust my instincts, because my instinct was absolutely right. And do you agree that our own government, led by Lyndon Baines Johnson, assisted by Allen Dulles, and covered up by J. Edgar Hoover, killed the 35th president of the United States?
I've studied it out a lot, and I've actually been to Dealey Plaza twice.
Me too,
and
3 times actually.
And I've been up into the museum and the fifth floor where Oswald supposedly did it. And then I investigated it myself.
Me too.
I was a pretty good investigator. I was a detective. And all my feelings since I was 11 years old about it not making sense even came a much stronger. Every time I looked into it, became much stronger. And when I was up in the fifth floor, the book depository, supposedly where Oswald fired a shot, I wondered and wondered, and I've never heard anybody else talk about this before. When the motorcade was coming directly towards where Oswald was stationed,
The
it was
easiest shot.
exactly
The
and
obvious
this
easy
white
shot.
shirt. This white shirt is there. He's coming right for him, and Oswald could have just gone. I mean, he could have done it blindfolded.
And the car was almost stopping as it made the hairpin turn.
Well, yeah. And so when it turned down Elm Street, it turned on at Houston, and it's coming right straight at him. Oh, he doesn't take that shot.
It's a sitting
Because
duck at that point.
It was a triangulation that didn't even involve him. He was a patsy. And he even said he was a
He
patsy.
said he was a patsy.
Now he has a 45-degree angle. He has trees in his way. He has signs in his way. And that's the thing about Dealey Plaza. It's so eerie. It looks exactly like it did back in 1963 when this happened.
I was there just last November for the 62nd, 63rd anniversary of the assassination. And the blown out street curb is still there and unrepaired where a bullet struck the street curb. Now, that's not one of the 3 bullets. That's the 4th bullet.
Right.
And many people think there were probably 6 bullets that day. But the point that, and here's, I'm not litigating or relitigating the Kennedy assassination, although I do frequently.
We're always doing that.
I'm always doing it, but there's
I don't think Johnson had much to do with it because he's too stupid.
Well, let me. I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me give you a couple of tidbits on that one. Yeah. He was involved with Billy Saul's Estes in Texas. And they committed fraud against the state of Texas in claiming cotton government subsidies to which they were not entitled. You talk about Minneapolis being a fraud. They invented it back in Texas in 1960.
But Johnson cheated to be senator, and he was a crook all the way around.
Totally. So the Agricultural Commissioner was investigating Johnson. Kennedy told Ms. Lincoln the day that he left on his trip to Texas that he was not going to have Johnson on the ticket with him, that he was under investigation. The Agricultural Commissioner was assassinated. He was tried by a jury. The assailant was tried, Mac Wallace, was tried by a jury of 12 men and women in Texas. He was unanimously found guilty of committing murder. The judge, a Johnson protege, I'm not done yet. It gets better. The judge, a Johnson protege, releases Mac Wallace from jail and does not send him to prison, commuting his sentence to time served.
Oh my goodness.
No, check it out. It's in Roger Stone's book, The Men Who Killed Kennedy, the case against Lyndon Baines Johnson. And here's the punchline, very significant. There are no fingerprints of Lee Harvey Oswald ever to have been found in the sniper's nest.
Correct.
Guess whose fingerprint is there?
Oh, I didn't know that one. No.
Mac Wallace.
Wow.
End of story.
End of story.
So now, why is that important to me and you and our country 64 years later? Because they're still doing the same kinds of things.
That's right.
I mean, do you believe that Thomas Matthew Crooks took a shot at President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, July 13th, 2024?
He may have, but I doubt it. But the way it all went down, it looked like an inside job just because it was such a bungled whole. The security was so obviously bungled that it looked like an inside job. And that's the only thing you could come up with.
Well, I've seen the Secret Service planning document prior to the event. They had a security circle, a radius established around the venue. And conspicuously, the AGR building is cut out of the circle like a piece of pie.
Yeah.
It was not a mistake. It wasn't an act of omission. It was an intentional act of commission to take that building out of the security perimeter, just like they changed the parade route in Dallas when Kennedy went there and put him in a position of being a sitting duck. One cop on that AGR building could have prevented the whole thing. Right. And and the detail was reduced because there were people in Pittsburgh tending to Dr. Jill, who wasn't a doctor and who was not an elected official, but she took Trump a good portion of Trump's detail. I don't want to get too bogged down in the weeds, and this is your interview, not mine. But I got to get this stuff off my chest.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm a good therapist.
Thomas Matthew. Well, I want us to be therapists for the nation. Thomas Matthew Crooks never had pierced ears. No evidence of it. Every picture, no picture, shows him with pierced ears. But Maxwell Urich, who had fought in the Ukraine, who had ties to the CIA, whose parents ran Urich Munitions in Mesa, Arizona, drove a white van to Butler. And right after the shots rang out, the national media named him as a person of interest and showed his white van being towed away from the venue.
Yeah. I never heard of that one.
Maxwell Urich wore gauges, which he had removed from his ears. Now you zoom in on the pictures of the assailant on top of the AGR building. He's got scars on his ears. Thomas Matthew Crooks had no scars. Maxwell Urich likely did from when he wore gauges. Final point, the day after, July the 14th, Maxwell Urich's parents filed a missing persons report on their son. He has never been seen or heard of since. Now, what does that prove? It proves reasonable doubt about Thomas Matthew Crooks, and no one has investigated it. It's been forgotten. It's been covered up. The mystery to me is the one person on earth who has a reason to know seems disinterested. Trump doesn't talk about it anymore. Yeah. I saw an interview. He said, well, my people looked at it. They said it was Matthew Crooks, so I just have to take them at their word.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be shot again.
Bingo. That if you hadn't said it, I was going to.
Yeah. Well. First of all, you bringing up the JFK assassination and how much it affected both of us. Yeah. It did immensely.
Totally.
But there's another key component to that, and I'm sure you'll remember this name, Dorothy Kilgallen.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I used to watch her on What's My Line?
What's My Line? Yeah, I did too. So you and I are about the same age. I'm 73. You've got to be about 72.
No, I'm 73. I've just had a birthday.
Oh, we're the same age. Okay. I just turned 73 in December.
Well, you look darn good.
Well, thanks. So do you. But Dorothy Kilgallen is a huge story about JFK. Were you aware of that?
Totally.
Okay. So we bring this up. We did the research for the book because this one's just too glaring. It's too obvious. She died the exact same way that Marilyn Monroe did. Except Marilyn Monroe, they said, they investigated, oh yeah, she committed suicide. With Dorothy Kilgallen, they said it was an accident. But both of them died the exact same way and very, very close to each other date-wise. But Dorothy Kilgallen was a very dogged reporter. And she became a celebrity after she did some worldwide race around the world, okay? And she did really well. Anyway, that's when she started being on What's My Line. But when this happened to JFK, she actually really liked President Kennedy, and she took it upon herself to do an investigation. And she's the only reporter that ever interviewed Jack Ruby, who supposedly, well, it's pretty obvious that he did kill Lee Harvey Oswald. But he was assigned to take Oswald out by the mafia to make sure that he never was allowed to talk or go to trial because he could have proved. he could have proved that it was a conspiracy. However, what happened to Dorothy Kilgallen is absolutely astonishing. So she has all this investigation. She's about ready to go public with her investigation as to how President Kennedy was actually killed. And then she was murdered, or I mean, she accidentally, according to the police, she accidentally took barbiturates and drank and accidentally killed herself. But whoever really killed her stole all of her papers and notes of the investigation. Folks, this is huge because it's obvious that they don't want Dorothy Kilgallen to talk and to expose her investigation. So it never went public and it just was completely covered up, and no one ever investigated how in the world she died or who actually killed her to silence her and to get rid of that investigation. Folks, right then and there is enough to show you, and this is just a small part.
That's just like, one chapter in a very long treatise.
Exactly.
Well,
and,
Dorothy Kilgallen.
The Democrat Party has continued this kind of crap ever since.
Totally. You and I, oh gosh, Sheriff Mack, I'm so glad God's brought us together. We think the same, and I can finish your sentences. November 22nd, 1963 was the day that America lost its innocence. Correct. And the Warren Commission, and the day it was published.
She called the Warren Commission a joke.
Yeah, because it was. Yeah. And the day that it was published is the day that American politicians and bureaucrats became untouchable. Because that document conveyed to every bureaucrat in America that if you've got power, and it doesn't really matter how much or where, you can use it and literally get away with murder. Yep. And we're seeing it played out over and over and over again. Now, I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement. When I went into English Avenue in 2006, the first thing we did was to renovate a very nice house, and we installed 2 police officers to live there rent-free, and it changed the whole dynamic. So I want to preface it with that, but I'm also more a supporter of the United States Constitution. And there is a guy on YouTube, a civil rights lawyer, that goes around the country investigating and picking apart cases of police overreach, misuse of authority. And it seems to me to be almost an epidemic now. Not all cops, just the bad ones, are abusing people's civil liberties. And they're doing so recklessly, callously, and deliberately in spite of Supreme Court established doctrine. Well, see, it is alarming to me.
That's why we formed the Constitutional Sheriff Organization, to combat that, so that we actually have guards of the Constitution and the protectors of civil rights in some counties all across this country. And that was the exact intent of what we're doing.
Good for you. Because I also worked, the stimulus behind me getting involved in English Avenue was that 6 Atlanta police officers entered the home of 92-year-old Catherine Johnston. And she was lived in the hood. She lived in fear of being broken into. It was a rough neighborhood. Heroin was openly dealt on the street corners. And she had a rusted out pistol. She didn't know how to use it. She kept it by her side. And when somebody started bashing down the front door of her house, she reached for that pistol, fired one shot that actually went into the ceiling. The police broke in and pumped her full of 32 rounds of ammunition. You're welcome to Google it. Catherine Johnston, Atlanta, Georgia. Her name will come up prominently, and those 6 officers went to prison. Some of them are still in prison because they planted marijuana in the basement of her house and claimed that her grandson was dealing out of her home. Well, that story lasted about 5 minutes because it turned out he was a straight A student and literally an Eagle Scout. So it was just a horrible miscarriage of justice. They made a mistake. It was shoddy police work, and they lied on their application for a no-knock warrant. And they just got the address wrong. And a lot of the facts were wrong that they put into their affidavit. So then the cover-up ensued. But that's what really heightened me to the how far bad cops will go to lie and cover up their breaking of the law.
Yeah. And that's part of my books. I wrote the proper role of law enforcement. I wrote The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. Probably another powerful book, Are You a David? Is about the biblical David. But are we Davids today? Will we take on Goliath? Well, I took on Goliath when I sued the Clinton administration back when I was sheriff in Arizona. And we won a case at the U.S. Supreme Court. And I want all of your listeners to know probably the most powerful book besides the Bible and a pocket constitution is this little thing. And this little pamphlet here is a review copy of the highlights of my Supreme Court victory. And that's available at our website. You won't find this anyplace else except our website, cspoa.org, cspoa.org. And every American should join the CSPOA. This is an organization for you. It's to work with local law enforcement, especially sheriffs, to create what Madison said, erect the barriers against the encroachments of the national authority. Folks, we have to have sheriffs that defend the Constitution, erect the barriers, and protect you from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. That is what we do. This is why we wrote the book now, risking our lives to write this book, The Democrat Murder of America, because they are doing everything they can to kill the American dream, to kill what the founding fathers established for our country, and the liberties that these men raised up for that very purpose by God Almighty to establish the greatest country in the world, and the foundation of which is our Constitution, which was also inspired by God. And so what are they doing? They're destroying our Constitution, they're destroying our foundation, and they're doing everything they can to create a communist takeover of America, and using fear and murder and conspiracies, and allowing all of these criminals to come into our country during the Biden administration. Folks, they brought in the terrorists, international terrorists, who have created sleeper cells now. They brought in the cartels. They brought in the human traffickers. They did the pedophiles that now control the sexual slavery market for the world, and they brought them into our country. And folks, it couldn't be any worse if it had to be. And now we're exposing all of that in this book. And the most important thing, though, we, in the last chapter, the epilogue, create and show you the solution. There is a peaceful and effective solution. But folks, first of all, we have to know the truth. So
Totally.
get a copy of the book and then join us. And literally, we've all got to be on the same page, excuse the pun. But that's why you need to read the book.
And listen to The Truth every Saturday and Sunday from noon to 2 on the John Fredericks Radio Network and live streamed across the web. Now, so I want to get to the epilogue in just a second, but
I've been on John Fredericks too.
Oh, good. I'm sure you have. I've got an important question to ask you.
Okay.
Why and who?
Why is because evil people just have to keep doing evil things. And there's always been a conspiracy, almost since day one of America's foundation, to destroy her. And the reason why is because America was based on godly principles. And of course, the demonic nature of some people wanted to make sure that that was destroyed. They've tried ever since.
Historically, what incident, what episodes or what evidence are you citing, other
Oh,
than the
well,
things that we've talked about? But I want to know. I keep looking for the puppet master. I keep trying to find the wizard, and worse, I can't find the wizard. I can't even find the curtain. I don't know where to look. I've got suspicions.
yeah, so do I.
I know people that are in the chain, but I just don't know who's
Well, one is
pulling the
George Soros.
threads.
The contemporary is George Soros. But when you look back through history and you look at the horrible things that have happened, even the cheating in elections, uh,
Georgia 2020.
yeah, well, way back, even before then.
Sure. Oh, definitely.
Rutherford B. Hayes and the cheating that happened there, and the cheating that happened uh, to get, like we said, Lyndon Baines Johnson in. The only reason he ever served at all is because he cheated to become senator in Texas. And the racism of these people and the horrible things that uh, President Jackson, Andrew Jackson, did. Even back then, he was the seventh president of the United States. And the Trail of Tears that he went after Native Americans and killed thousands of them. And so you just keep looking at what the Democrat Party did ever since it was formed in 1823 to support slavery as they did. And yet now the whole reversal of the 90% of the blacks, 85% now, maybe, and Trump has helped maybe get it back down to 80.
Mm-hmm.
Racism and the racial divide and divisiveness and the hate promoted through the two-party system. And the Democrats have taken this to such extremes, the extremism of the Democrat Party and their wokeness. And look at just the stupidity and sanity of having men play in female sports and what the Democrat Party has done to destroy the dreams of these women who now are forced, or they're labeled as racists and bigots if they don't support men playing in their leagues and teams and same sports. It has gone so wacko that and all of this is to destroy America. Every bit of
100%. I still need to know who. I think I've got the why. They clearly want to destroy America, but I've got a suspicion that it could very well be the Chinese, that these people may be proxies and bad actors for the Chinese. You know, Peter Schweitzer, who's written several very compelling books, he's written over 23 books, sat right across from my desk here in the studio a couple of months ago talking about China. They are definitely bad actors. I guess, you know, I side with Trump. You know, Biden never went to China. He never engaged with China. All he did was take their money and allow their spy balloons to float over our military bases undeterred, and let the borders open to allow 150,000 fit military-age Chinese men walk across our southern border, who are still here in the heartland of America, hiding.
They're here. Yeah.
And so they would probably be my number one suspect, but I'm not sure it's just them.
Russia and China, but you could look at George Soros and where the funding has gone. Look at all of the woke DAs. There's over 100 that were funded by George Soros, and now we have a good sheriff in Las Vegas of all places. Kevin McMahill has the first sheriff in America to stand up to the judges and say, "No, I will not release these people. I'm not releasing career criminals back into society so that they can victimize more people in my county." And he told 4 different judges, no, he would not do that anymore. 11 different times on 11 different inmates that he said, "I'm not putting these people back on the streets." And so now that's going to court. But we had a courageous sheriff do his job. And yes, I met with him before this happened, and I explained to him what we're doing with constitutional sheriffs nationwide. Folks, this is part of the solution. It's peaceful and effective, but you've got to be involved in the process. If the American people aren't involved in the solution and the holy cause of liberty, according to Thomas Jefferson, we will not be successful in preserving the America that we were born in. Folks, America is on her deathbed, and we can revive her. but we've got to get together and we've got to know the truth. And this is the reason we wrote this book. We wrote it for you, but we also wrote it for the good Democrats who are being hoodwinked and brainwashed by the Democrat Party. And why they continue to do this. We just had a reporter say, man, I'm so glad that this Platt guy is running for mayor and he's a Democrat and he voted for Bass. And he said, I'm so glad he's there because he's straightening the Democrat Party out. I'm still going to vote for the Democrat, but we're really glad this Republican is straightening everybody out. He can't get past the brainwashness of his own life to realize that voting for the Republican would be the best way to save that office there.
Well, and why do Jews continue to and why do Jewish people continue to vote Democrat when Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem like he promised to do, and he forged the Abraham Accords, and he's neutering Israel's greatest threat in Iran. So it's bewildering.
An enemy hath done this, and it's the enemy from within right now. But it's George Soros getting all these woke attorneys, these woke judges, and now we have a sign from Sheriff McMahill. What's the answer? Sheriffs, unite and wake up and join us in this cause of liberty. But
I've always felt like sheriffs were the last defense, maybe the first, maybe the first and the last.
First and last.
Yeah. So I commend your work. One final topic. I know we've run long. Thank you for the generosity of your time. And you have enthused me. You are a tremendous role model, and everything you say is what has been on my mind. And that is the message. If we're going to save the country, you can't let Donald Trump do it for you. He can't do it by himself. We have got to coalesce as a nation and rally behind him, which I think we are doing in real time right now. Do you know that he is, let's see, what's the number? 110 or 112 to 0 in the endorsements that he has made all over the country in governor's races, U.S. Senate, and congressional races. What's his name in Texas just won.
Quickly, let me throw this in there. And he's the only president that has a mental disorder named after him.
Yeah, exactly. Derangement syndrome. Ken Paxton just won and turned out Cornyn, who is a consummate deep stater, and he has been there with Thune blocking the Save America Act. Why would two Republicans not want the Save America Act to pass so we can have honest, free, fair elections, which is the cornerstone of our republic? Exactly. Thank God he's gone. And I think that Ken Paxton will be a good senator. He's running against a complete lunatic who is in favor of everything you just ranted about in a good way. Men and women's sports, sex changes for kids that don't have to have parental consent, on and on and on. It's lunacy. I just don't think this is organic. I really don't. My instinct as a 10-year-old that we talked about, my instinct as a 73-year-old is that this nonsense, this illogical nonsense is sponsored. And I just don't think that George Soros on his own is capable of masterminding this plan that is obviously being executed by someone.
And we're never going to know all the who's.
Well, we can know. This is the thing that really pisses me off. We catch people dead-handed. Adam Schiff. We know now because of Tulsi Gabbard declassifying a document, proof positive that Schiff lied to the American people and brought us through the fake impeachment and the $40 million Mueller investigation that was premised on the lie that Schiff knew. Why is he not under indictment?
Yeah, exactly. And Alejandro Mayorkas and Merrick Garland and many others.
Joe Biden.
Joe, well, yeah, but
and
he's
his
not
chief of
competent.
staff and the people that worked in the White House that knew that
He
they
can't
were.
stand trial. He's not competent to stand trial, but the rest of them can.
Yeah.
And they lied about it. And they were the president. He was not. He was never the president. He wasn't capable of doing it. And they all knew it. That's the biggest crime ever committed against the American people. But yeah, we've got to, folks.
All right. So last thing, I'm not cutting you off. I just got to get to it.
Go.
I have a concern, and less so today than I did a month ago, because the Republicans, they talk about Trump being so down in the polls and his approval being so low, but the voters have validated President Trump by electing 110 or 112 of the people that he has endorsed. He has not lost. We have not lost a single race where he has endorsed a candidate. So I think that there is a continuing wave of good people coming to the fight. But I am concerned that the subject of immigration, the thing that got him elected, if we do lose in midterms, could be a related cause to a loss in November. And that is, we got 20 million illegals here. Maybe it's 18 million now that have been deported or left voluntarily. But some of the ways that the deportations have been conducted offend my sensibilities.
Right.
They locked up a guy who I personally know in Palm Beach, who's been here 30 years. He's the general manager of Beach A Restaurant, which is a national chain of fine dining Italian restaurants. He got stopped for the windshield of his nephew's car he was riding in had too much tint. They stopped him. They detained them. They eventually turned them over to ICE, and he was sent to Alligator Alcatraz, where he ate off a cement floor in a cardboard box for 3 days, until the people of Palm Beach expressed such overwhelming outrage. And these are mostly Republicans.
Yeah.
Mostly, and I'm talking about rich, really rich Republicans, expressed such outrage that they released him in 3 days. He's back at his job at Beach A. Now, I don't know his status as an alien, but I know he's been here 30 years. He owns property. He has family. He has broken no laws except possibly the law about that he broke when he came here. I don't know that, though. But others have similarly performed, and they've got roots and tentacles in the communities in which they live. It seems like a virtually impossible task the way that it's being done now. Is there the possibility of a more considered, thoughtful process to register people and classify them and handle their deportations on some sort of a hierarchical basis? Or am I just wishing for the tooth fairy?
No, I think that's legitimate. It's a legitimate question, and I think it's a legitimate process, and it can be. But he should be going to someone. He should be getting a lawyer.
He's got one, as does his brother who works next door to him.
They should both be taking that to court and finding whatever money they need to spend to become citizens. Take the time and effort to do it right, and make sure the documentation is there. And there is a process for doing that.
Well, one of the problems in the current path to citizenship, or even a work permit, from what I understand, that I think is a real barrier that needs to be looked at and maybe revised, is that you have to go back to your country of origin to apply. Well, you can go back to Guatemala or Colombia, Venezuela, and apply. A lot of them are going to get killed.
Yeah,
they'll disappear.
And he needs to let them know right up front. The asylum seekers and people who need asylum don't have to go back. The attorneys can take care of this, and it's definitely a process that's there. And so yes, I've said the same thing. I've run into friends and family that were trying to help people do the same thing. And so look, this is still America, and it's a fair and honest process. They do not need to self-deport. Just get the lawyers to make the requests, and it can happen. Yes.
Man, I tell you, and I'm not trying to suck up to you, Sheriff Mack. I don't know that there's anything that you can do for me personally, but I am so in awe. We have to be brothers by a different mother
We
because
probably
our
are.
DNA is like identical. You and I see it the same on every topic. And I'm just so grateful for your coming on today. I want to be one of your warriors. Um, you're right. The American people have got to maintain this country and our freedoms
Yes.
if they're going to survive. And just in closing, I think, and you touched on it, my sense is that the day we really got into trouble as a country is the day the Supreme Court ruled that prayer in school was unconstitutional. We saw a decline of the morality in this country starting, coincidentally or not, at that juncture. We've got to get it back. And I
And the
think
follow up to that was Roe v. Wade.
100%. We're
Yeah.
seeing a return to what I would call normalcy. Millennials are returning to the church. And my own son, who's 38 and has given me every gray hair I've got, I love him. But he was bad as a teenager and a kid. He now teaches Bible study. I am so proud of this guy.
God bless.
But other millennials are following the same pursuit. Here it is, folks, The Democrat Murder of America by Sheriff Mack and his co-writer Daniel Perkins. I hope you'll be frequent guest on The Truth, and I'm sure I speak for our audience. Just a big thank you for everything that you're doing.
Well, thank you too. And again, you want to be one of our warriors. We want everybody to join CSPOA. Everyone should be a warrior. Join our posse at cspoa.org. Get the book and let's get on the same page. First, know the truth, and then we establish a solution together. And folks, this is all now about saving our country. We can do it. God bless us as we do.
www.cspoa.org. I will be your very next member. And while I'm there, is that where I can download the ebook? Or do I go to www.murderofamerica.com?
Go to Murder of America and you can download it right then and there.
Okay. Well, I've got my homework to do. I'm on it. And again, thank you, Sheriff Mack. And you ever come to the East Coast?
Yes, especially if somebody invites me.
Well, look, I'm not boastful. I'm not trying to be immodest, but I just finished a pretty darn nice house. And it's got a guest wing. You can bring your wife. We won't even know you're there. You can come and stay as long as you want. I don't know. Do you have an adult beverage once in a while?
I've got a brother who lives in Duluth, Georgia, right outside Atlanta.
Yeah, well, Atlanta has been my home for the last 45 years. I raised my family there and still have my businesses there. But I'm in West Palm Beach, Florida now, and the views are spectacular. The weather's getting a little toasty, but coming from Arizona, I think you can deal with it. And
we can.
Come on down and we'll have an adult beverage together and we'll solve a lot more problems. Thank you for coming on The Truth.